Let's explore that truth with a deep talk from a high school student, ladies and gentlemen, with the topic Why Our Inner Fire Fades When No One Is Watching. And please give a round of applause for our next speaker, Nguyễn Trần Thiên Cẩm from High School Hòa Vang.
I'm a big, big girl in a big, big world. It's not a big, big thing if you need me. When no one is watching me, is that really a big thing? At the beginning of 2024, my cousin suggested something simple. Why don't you start a TikTok channel? He didn't mean anything serious. Just post anything you enjoy. And I gave it a try. At that time, I realized I was quite comfortable with English. And my friends seemed to enjoy the small tips and tricks I shared. So I thought, why not share them with a wider audience? So that's how it began. Just me, posting short videos about the things I learned. Those early videos were quite raw. No strategies, no expectations, no obsession with views or algorithms. I was simply sharing something I cared about. And then, the unexpected happened. The people started responding. The comments began to trickle in, telling me that the tips were helpful. Some people even said that they felt more confident speaking English because of my videos. And for the first time, I felt like my voice actually mattered. It was encouraging. It was meaningful. And slowly, my motivation began to catch fire. One day, one video exploded, reaching over 800,000 views. And overnight, my phone wouldn't stop lighting up. Likes, comments, more followers. But in that search of success, something shifted. My confidence now had numbers attached to it. And when your self-worth is tied to a metric, it becomes really, really fragile. What started as an internal spark slowly became dependent on external attention. Initially, I created it for the joy of it. But after a viral hit, I found myself checking the dashboard constantly. And without realizing it, my motivation was no longer fully mine. Then came the reality check that many creators face. The following videos didn't perform the same way. Some struggled, some barely reached anyone at all. And suddenly, the numbers I had grown fond of started to feel heavy. Because once you start measuring yourself by the data, those digits become the only standard that you have. When the attention faded, my drive went with it. I questioned my ability. I procrastinated. I scrolled. Not out of boredom, but out of a quiet fear that trying again would only lead to more disappointment. And that's when I realized I was caught in an invisible loop that many young people are facing today. It starts with validation. When someone notices your work, you feel seen. Then, a chemical called dopamine is produced, a quick rush that makes you want to do something more. Comparison then follows, because once number exists, there's always someone doing better than you. And slowly, the self-doubt creeps in, not loudly, but persistently. And instead of creating, we procrastinate. We do the doom scrolling. Not because we're lazy, but because the risk of failing feels too high. And eventually, we search for validation again, hoping that this time, maybe it will last. But that's why the motivation, therefore, it doesn't disappear. It gets exhausted. And that is when I stopped asking, how can I get more views? And I started asking myself, why does this keep happening to me? And in my search for an answer, I came across one perspective that changed everything. What we measure defines what we value. So think about this for a second. When we are measuring the likes, the comments, the followers, we are just looking at the data. We are training our brains to believe that those things are the only things that matter. And without noticing it, we stop measuring the quality of our work. And we start measuring our worth, our value by the exact same scale. Let me show you how this sounds inside our heads. So the first voice says, oh, this video is good. This is the one. You can post it. And another voice says, no, don't really bother it. No one really cared last time. And for most of the time, the second voice wins. This led me to an uncomfortable but realistic realization. We do not lack motivation. We lack a sense of motivation that exists independently of attention. When our self-belief depends on instant feedback, internal agency erodes. Digital dependence is not just about how much time we spend on our screens. It's about outsourcing our sense of worth to an algorithm. And after recognizing this loop, I knew I had to make a change. If attention is unstable, how do we rebuild a fire that lasts? So the first shift is simple. Instead of asking, did my video perform well today? I will ask myself, did I show up and create today? Because effort is the one thing that no algorithms can take away from you. And secondly, instead of judging myself after every single post, I began to measure my progress in months, not moments. Because the real world rarely fits into a 24-hour analytics window. And most importantly, I learned to treat attention differently. Wait, please don't get me wrong at this point. I haven't stopped wanting the likes and the followers because I still want my work to reach as many people as possible. But I have stopped letting the attention to be my identity, and I have started letting it to be my fuel. I no longer need the numbers to tell me who I am. I only want them because they represent reach, the chance to have a student somewhere to understand English by watching the 60-second clips that I made. I consider attention as something to protect, not as something to chase. I don't mean attention as validation from others. I mean attention as the awareness directed back to myself. So, what does it mean to reignite the inner fire? It's not about more passion or more productivity, but resilience, the ability to keep going, even when your effort leaves no digital trace, when no one is clapping, when no one is watching. A resilient fire does not demand attention. It will use its attention to be the wind to spread its warmth further. It burns quietly, but long enough to light the way forward. Attention that feeds on the motivation that feeds on the tension will always burn out fast. But true growth rarely happens in the moments that go viral. It happens in quiet repetitions that no one applauds. I'm not here as an expert. I'm here as someone who's still learning how to protect self-belief in a world driven by metrics. Because the moments when no one is watching are the ones that shape us the most. Thank you.